This past week in AI felt different. It wasn't just another series of busy headlines. If you really take a step back and look at the bigger picture, you can see a clear pattern emerging. And it's a fundamental shift in how we're even thinking about and using artificial intelligence.
We had 5 huge developments drop. And we're talking about some of the biggest names in the game. OpenAI, the Supreme Court, Meta, and Google. The whole crew was involved.
And yeah, at first glance, these 5 stories might seem like they have nothing to do with each other. But they really, really do.
Because when you start to connect the dots between these headlines, a super important trend comes into focus. And it's a trend that signals a massive change for the entire industry.
So what's the big idea here? It's this. We are moving past just building AI tools. We are now building AI workers. Think about that. We are shifting from systems that simply assist humans to systems that can act autonomously. So let's break down the 5 stories that show exactly where this is all heading. Okay, first up, the Pentagon's new AI partner, OpenAI. Our first story kicks off with OpenAI making a really aggressive move to land some major contracts with the U.S. Department of Defense.
Now, what's really interesting here is the context. OpenAI jumped in right after its main competitor, Anthropic, actually pulled out of the running. Anthropic cited major concerns about having to loosen its AI safety guardrails for military use. And as you can imagine, this whole situation has kicked off a huge public debate, and the rollout itself has been, well, kind of messy.
In fact, OpenAI's own CEO, Sam Altman, admitted they can't fully control how the Pentagon will use their models, and he even called the initial deal structure sloppy. That right there tells you just how complex and high stakes this whole move is.
But here's the real takeaway from this. This isn't about experiments anymore. Governments are actively deploying AI. And historically, whenever a new technology gets integrated into the military, that's the signal. That's when you know it's gotten really serious and has entered an operational phase.
All right, next up, copyright's unresolved question. Let's pivot to the legal side of things. The U.S. Supreme Court just made a decision, or maybe a non-decision, that has massive implications for the future of AI.
The court decided not to hear a major case about whether AI companies are breaking copyright law when they train models on existing creative work. For AI developers, this is a huge win. It basically means full steam ahead, no clear legal roadblocks. But for artists and creators, it leaves this giant question mark hanging over everything about ownership and compensation.
So by stepping back, the court has effectively allowed the legal world of AI training data to stay a complete Wild West. There are no clear rules of the road.
So while the courts were stepping back, one of the major players stumbled. Anthropic. Yep, the same company that just took a big stand on safety had a very rough week with its AI assistant Claude. So Claude had this massive global outage that locked out millions of its users. And the market's reaction was immediate. As you can see right here, tons of those users just bailed and switched back to the competition. And almost instantly, ChatGPT reclaimed its top spot for daily use in the business world.
This is such a critical lesson. It's a stark reminder that in this incredibly competitive AI race, being stable and reliable is just as important as having fancy capabilities. Downtime is an absolute killer.
All right, on to our next couple of stories, which are all about the race to build something called agentic AI. We're talking about systems designed to act on our behalf, and both Meta and Google just made some big moves here.
First, Meta. They're testing a new feature called AI Shopping Research. So instead of you having to manually search for things, the AI does all the work. It researches products, it compares all the options, and then it recommends what you should buy. It's pretty much like having your own personal shopping analyst.
At the very same time, Meta signed a massive data licensing deal with News Corp. And get this, the CEO of News Corp said his company is basically repositioning itself to become an AI input company. That tells you everything about how the media landscape is shifting to feed these powerful new AI systems. Which brings us to Google. They've partnered up with the retail giant Wesfarmers to deploy what is truly agentic AI. And look, these aren't just simple chatbots. We're talking about systems that can analyze, decide, and then execute complex tasks, all on their own.
And look at where it's being used. This isn't some theory. It's happening right now. This AI is managing retail operations, healthcare logistics, energy systems, entire supply chains, with minimal human input. This is the very definition of a system that doesn't just assist a worker, it is the worker.
Okay, so let's connect these 5 dots, because when you put all these stories together, they stop being just random headlines and they start telling a much, much bigger story about where we're all headed.
So let's recap. We have governments putting AI into real-world operations. We have the courts stepping away from regulation. We have big tech building autonomous agents. We have media companies pivoting to become data farms. And we have major enterprises plugging this technology right into their core operations.
This is not just another tech cycle. This is the very beginning of a fundamental shift. We are moving from a world of AI tools that help us do our jobs to a world of AI workers, systems that can research, plan, and execute tasks all by themselves.
And the implications of this are just enormous. Over the next few years, this transition is going to completely transform how companies operate, and it will challenge the very definition of what work even is.
So these 5 stories, which seemed so separate, are actually all signals that a new era is already beginning. And that leaves us with a critical question to think about. As we make this monumental shift from AI tools to AI workers, how will our world and our place in it be redefined?